Hello again, everybody. Life Skodnick with you from Mexico City at the Marriott Reforma on Paseo de la Reforma as the Giants get set to take on the San Diego Padres, the home team for the MLB Mexico City series that starts today at Estadio Alfredo Arpelu in Ciudad Deportivo in Mexico City. Matt Tallerini is joining me from another Marriott at the Marriott Airport in Miami, where he's down covering the Caribbean Series night that the Florida Marlins are hosting in advance of the 2024 Caribbean Series that's going to be played at Lone Depot Park in Little Havana, where we were for the World Baseball Classic about a month and a half ago. And Matt, you got to talk to Vladimir Guerrero last night. Vladimir Guerrero Sr., I should say, my favorite player of all time. But it looks like it's going to be a tremendous event to have the Caribbean Series at Marlins Park. What did you get from talking to Guerrero and the CBPC, and what did you hear last night?
Yeah, so Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was very open about how Major League Baseball, let alone that this is the first time that the Caribbean Series is being played at a Major League Baseball stadium. This is the third time that Miami has hosted the event. The first time since 1991. The last time they held it, it was prior to the Marlins inception period in 1993, and it was at Bobby Maduro Stadium in '91, and it was at the Orange Bowl in 1990. And Guerrero Sr. seemed pleased. This will be his second time being honored for the Caribbean Series. He was honored in 2022 in Santo Domingo at Estadio Quisqueya Juan Marichal, where Tigres del Licey and Leones de Escogido play all their home games in the Lindome Winter League regular season. So, everyone is very open-minded. They're buying in to where international baseball is going. Kema Sanchez, who I got to speak with also, he's business management and operations for the Marlins, and he's also in charge of organizing the 2024 Caribbean Series at Lone Depot Park in early February of next year. And a lot of people seem to be really excited about this. 6 teams, Nicaragua, Curacao, the 2 invitees, and I think it's going to be very important of where the sport of baseball grows for the Caribbean Series being played at a Major League Baseball stadium, next year, and being on United States soil. So, Guerrero was very open-minded. He's advocating a lot of players from Major League Baseball to play in the winter leagues this year, so they can bring a great facelift, to the Caribbean Series come February of 2024.
And, I think one of the things that's going to be the most interesting about Lone Depot Park in Miami hosting the Caribbean Series is that the large Latin American community in Miami, as well as the accessibility of Miami to the 4 major countries, as well as some of the smaller countries that are going to be participating in the coming year, Curacao and Nicaragua. I think we're going to see an atmosphere just like we saw during pool play at the World Baseball Classic, and it's going to be great.
Without a doubt. I think, majority of those games of the Caribbean Series, they're going to sell out at night. That's the guaranteed outlook that the Marlins want, and Major League Baseball, being the decoy of this, that you got to have a great product in this. And I think, like the Marlins, they don't sell out every game except opening day, or maybe, if they turn it around this season, a lot of bigger attendance can pack into Lone Depot Park, in the upcoming months. And I just see, a big turnout for the event itself. I think, they got a lot of plans that they want to announce. Even today, we're going to know the schedule. Maybe there is a matchup schedule today also that, coincides with the dates. But I think, like Miami, it's a great hub to have a Caribbean Series. And I think the Caribbean series can, see Miami as a product base, alignment, that maybe this is going to be another time that they do it at a Major League Baseball stadium. And there are rumors that they want to be in Miami either every 4 years, and between that period of the gap span, that they want to have it in other Latin American stadiums too, Mexico, Santo Domingo, Hiram Bithorn in San Juan. So I think it's going to be a great outlook of what the CBPC is gonna bring to the table. I think come early February of next year.
All right, so down here in Miami, we're going to see the Cardinal or the Cubs and the Marlins. Tell us about last night's game and your expectations for the rest of the series.
Yeah, so the Marlins just got over the hump. They're one game above 500, 14-13. Jesus Luzardo pitched well last night in a 3-2 win. And so did the Miami bullpen. Honestly, they held their own too, to keep intact in certain points and of the game yesterday. And Nelson Vasquez of the Chicago Cubs had a really good um, at bat yesterday. Taking that inner half pitch deep to left field to get the Cubbies on the board 1-0. I think the Cubs could really, they're 3 games above 500 at this rate. They're third of the NL Central. 2 games left down here in Miami. I think they could execute a lot of what's at stake. And yeah, like I said with the Marlins, that they have a lot of fight in them this year for some reason. I feel like guys like Gene Segura have been filling crucial roles. Luis Arias, he's hitting above 400 this year at this rate. So I think that the Marlins offense can play a big part down the stretch of this year. And Gene Segura yesterday, single up the middle, bases loaded, no outs. Jorge Soler caps off the bottom of the ninth inning, starts it off with a single through the left side. And yeah, the Marlins got fight. I think for what we're seeing this year, maybe they are a wild card team, but and what Skip Schumacher has done in his first year managing the Marlins, let alone this is his first year getting a managerial shot at the major league level. I think he's doing the best of his ability of what the talent that he has on his roster that he fills out 1 through 9 on the lineup card, series in, series out, and every day. So yeah, and for David Ross with the Cubs, I think him as a manager, I think he's got to work in knowing a lot about the situations more. I think as a manager, I think he can, work around having a top offense with Cody Bellinger, Dansby Swanson, Seiya Suzuki, him not playing in the World Baseball Classic last month, and hitting the IL early in spring training kind of took a little edge off the Chicago Cubs. So I think if he gets back into the mix of things of where he was last year, I think Seiya can be a good liability and for the Cubs offense down the stretch of the season.
Cool. Well, so let me tell you about the trip down here to Mexico City. I flew out of Newark Airport for the first time in about 15 years. Used to fly out of there a lot when I was younger and lived in New Jersey, but made it to Mexico City just about an hour late. Um, and I stopped at the ballpark to pick up the credential. My Uber driver, Yannick, was great. Gave him a few extra pesos to wait for me while I ran in to get the credential and then back to the car. It's interesting. The airport is about an hour outside of town. So, people in New York that complain about the distance from JFK to Midtown, you do the same thing here in Mexico City. It's about an hour ride, alternately careening through traffic and then stopped dead because there's a lot of traffic. But it was interesting because I got to see a lot of the city between Benito Juarez International Airport and the Polanco district where I'm staying at the Marriott Reforma. Um, it's interesting too. I noticed on the flight, coming from Newark, you wouldn't expect to see a lot of Padres fans, but there were 3 or 4 people wearing Padres hats on the plane. So either they were relocated San Diegans who live in the New York area, or just for some reason they're Padres fans flying down for the series. So that was certainly interesting. The hotel here, a lot of Giants fans, a lot of Padres fans are here to see this series, I think, because it's such a unique event down here in Mexico City. Um, it's the first time that Major League Baseball has played regular season games here, and it's the first time that Major League Baseball has played regular season games at this altitude. 7,320 feet above sea level is the elevation of Estadio Alfredo Arpelu. The air is noticeably thinner. At least I noticed it, because basically I live 100 yards from a beach. So I basically live at sea level. So the elevation is quite noticeable to me. But I think it's going to be interesting. The ballpark looks great. I was only outside. I went up to the window to pick up the credential, but looking forward to getting in there today. I'm going to probably make my way out there in about 3 hours. And I think this is just going to be a great series.
Oh yeah, big time. I think, when you have an international series in the regular season, let alone what Major League Baseball has been doing for a little bit of time, I think that, you know, Mexico, let alone like they've hosted, certain games in Guadalajara, Monterrey. Now, this is the first test that having a game in Mexico City, I think this is going to bring a lot of attention to the Major League Baseball product. I think the product of Major League Baseball. And I think that, other fans could probably get into a lot of these other leagues down the road too, with, learning about the team's history of the teams in Mexico. Diablos de Rojos is the host stadium, a host team that operates at Estadio Alfredo Harpelu. And yeah, I think it's going to be a cool, facelift, like I said before, of where Major League Baseball is going to cater to the international, landscape. I think that it's big, to play these games outside of the United States. I think and Canada for the Toronto Blue Jays, can't leave them out. And I think that, like I said before, with noting about a lot of these teams' history, I think it's going to be key for where Major League Baseball is going to take the distance to have, is going to go the distance even to have other games outside of the United States down the road. They've had games in Australia in the past. Now we're going to see the second time with London hosting an international series event. Paris in 2025, the year after we see the 2024 games, summer games, Olympics in Paris. So yeah, Major League Baseball has done a phenomenal job, hosting these events, fan fest alignments too. I bet around, center of Mexico City, where you're staying at Life. I think that's going to be a big, draw period of merchandise and other like amenities too that can really corral in of the fans coming into Mexico City for the next few days.
All right, so one of the more interesting stories about the Mexico City series came out this morning from the Associated Press, and I'm sure it was in the San Francisco Chronicle and other outlets, but the Giants are staying right here in Polanco at the Four Seasons, not far from the hotel I'm at. Gabe Kapler elected to take the Mexico City Metro yesterday, and it didn't work out well. It's about an hour ride by car, but I think you can get there to Estadio Alfredo Arpelu in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes by metro, except that Gabe Kapler speaks no Spanish and there's construction going on the metro, and he didn't know what was happening when the train cleared out. So it sounded like he had some local tacos and absorbed some local culture, and then found his way to the ballpark and arrived at practice late in what's undoubtedly going to possibly be the most humorous story that comes out of the series. Matt, your thoughts on Gabe Kapler's misadventure?
I mean, don't wander off if you don't know where you're going. That's another thing about, if you're playing in another city, in another country, I think you should just stay with your team. You don't need to be a tourist. This is a work, environment that you need to have a game plan and execute with. And it's a big distraction, like, but the Giants being 11 and 14, they got to, figure out what they can to leave that distraction, and play between the lines. But, I mean, Gabe Kapler, this is his fifth season with the Giants. And I think that, like, certain managers make mistakes. I get it. But, when you're in another country and you don't speak English you don't speak English, you don't speak Spanish very well, that, a lot of stuff, or at all, even a lot of stuff can like just be misplaced. And I think Kapler just, wanted to go sightseeing for a little bit, and then, or probably was on his way to the ballpark, let alone, and just got miscarried away about where he was going. But yeah, I just suggested, if you're traveling with anybody that you play travel ball with or any other selective teams, if you don't know where you're going, stay where you are. And yeah, I think sightseeing can happen during the post game alignment stasher. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think Kapler's just a guy that is curious about the world around him, and went for an adventure, and didn't quite work out like he hoped, but he got there eventually, and at the very bare minimum, he's got this story to tell for years to come.
yeah, without no doubt. Yeah, I think it's like a learning experience too. And yeah, hopefully if the Giants play in another, international series, that doesn't happen in that scenario. That's all you could hope for.
So today, the Giants and the Padres play game one. Giants come in 11 and 14, winners of 5 of their last 6. They're going to put Sean Manaea on the mound, 6.53 ERA and 16.1 innings pitched. The Padres, losers of 4 of the last 5. They're 13 and 14. Joe Musgrove on the bump for the Swingin' Friars. He's only made one start this season, last Saturday against Arizona. Got hit a little bit, 7 hits, 5 runs, 6 strikeouts in the start for Musgrove. He missed a lot of the early going of the season with a broken left big toe that kept him on the IL until last weekend, and then obviously came back and made the start against the Diamondbacks. Sunday, the Padres are putting out Yu Darvish, who I've never seen pitch in person, so that's going to be a lot of fun. 3.0 ERA for Darvish so far this year, 24 innings pitched, 15 hits, 12 walks for him. But I'm really excited to see Alex Cobb pitch for the Giants. Cobb's a guy that uses no fastballs, basically. Sinker, split finger, slider, curveball. He's thrown exactly one four-seam fastball this season so far in I believe 5 starts. So it's going to be interesting to see that. A guy throwing a lot of breaking pitches in obviously thinner atmosphere might be interesting, but he's been great this season. 1.91 ERA in 28.1 innings pitched. And these numbers here that I'm about to give you are for the season, not for one start. He's given up 7 hits, 4 walks, 6 earned runs, and struck out 26. So obviously a very exciting young pitcher in Alex Cobb, going to be on the mound for the Giants on Sunday, and I'm tremendously looking forward to that. Juan Soto hasn't really been hitting at all for the Padres since coming over from Washington, so I think that's going to be a question as to the Padres' continued success. No one thought they were going to be 13 and 14 at this point in the year. Obviously, they've gotten Fernando Tatis Jr. back, who seems to have not missed a beat over his 80-game suspension for performance-enhancing drugs. But, I think the 1-2 punch that they expected between Soto and Tatis really isn't there if Soto isn't hitting and Tatis is suspended. So both those guys need to continue to produce if the Padres really want to get something going. Now, the Giants, I see as something of an enigma. I don't think beyond Alex Cobb they have much starting pitching, but I see Gabe Kapler as kind of a Ted Lasso-like figure. He's good at pulling everybody together and getting them pulling the rope in the same direction. So, I think for this team, the Giants, to have won 5 of their last 6, they've got things going in the right direction. I think they have the potential. I think today's game is going to be a slugfest. Tomorrow's game is going to be a pitching duel. So I think the Giants have the potential to leave Mexico City 1 game under 500. If they can get the bats going today, and Cobb does well tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the Giants are 3 games back of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona's 15-12, being 3 games above 500. Yeah, the Giants got to get it going. I think, and let alone what their offense is capable of doing. Jock Peterson, Mike Yastrzemski, as well. They need to bring that chemistry, now to that clubhouse of if they can get hot at the right time, at this point in the season, they could really see them and the Dodgers neck to neck before the All-Star break in mid-July. So yeah, I think San Francisco with Alex Cobb, like you said, he's only thrown one fastball through 5 starts this year, and like he can utilize a lot of breaking pitches efficiently. You throw first pitch strikes, you know that's your best pitch, regardless of the 4 other use of pitches that you have been using during this point in the season, and also prior with pitchers and catchers in spring training. I think that Alex Cobb can pitch to the potential that he is. He is a premier end pitcher, and he belongs in that rotation, without a doubt. So yeah, I think like you said before with the Giants, if they could sweep the Padres, I think that that's going to be a huge momentum booster going into May.
All right, so we'll wrap it up here, but we're going to be back with another podcast at some point next week. Matt and I are both flying back on Monday, and I'm going to be on the plane all day. Matt has a considerably shorter flight, but we will be back with another edition of Baseball Without Borders sometime next week. You can check out all of our written journalism at www.worldbaseball.com. Follow us on Twitter. He's Matt Tallerini. I'm Leif Skodnick. From Mexico City, until next time, smoke 'em inside.